The James Show Podcast.
And the theory behind this is all about tomorrow. Tomorrow's an election day, not just here in North Texas, but across the country. There's a lot of other municipalities and states and whatever where the voters are going to go out and cast a ballot. And then as soon as that's over, now we don't have to have anything to hold over the heads of the voters and scare them to get to the polls to vote for my team. So then it will be resolved. This is exactly as it was described by your Senator, Ted Cruz, with Maria Bartiromo over the weekend.
Will the government open this upcoming week? This is getting seriously impacting the U.S. economy. What's your take?
I think it's likely to open Wednesday or Thursday of this week. The Democrats will wait until after Election Day because they think a shutdown is good for energizing the crazies in their party. But I think it'll be either late this week or early next week.
Are you going to have to give on the Obamacare subsidies?
No, the Democrats will collapse entirely.
Okay.
All right, so he sounded really confident saying that. There's going to be a complete capitulation. And if there is, then the rest of that sort of hypothesis that he was throwing out, that this is all about the election and we're just creating a pain point to scare people to come get out and vote. Well, that's no longer a theory anymore. If what he predicts comes true, then that's kind of what the lay of the land tells you. They weren't just fighting for poor people or sick people or disabled people. They weren't just fighting for Obamacare subsidies or so your premiums wouldn't triple at the end of the year. They were just creating a hissy fit to drive up emotion for voter turnout. And the second that was not needed anymore, you get dropped like a bad habit. Donald Trump said something similar on 60 Minutes yesterday. He was asked about the shutdown by Norah O'Donnell.
We are now approaching the longest shutdown in American history.
Democrats' fault.
Under your presidency, we're talking about more than 1 million federal workers who are not getting a paycheck, including our air traffic controllers. You see there's traffic snarls out at the airports now.
Sure.
This weekend, food aid for more than 42 million Americans is set to expire. What are you doing as president to end the shutdown?
All we're doing is we keep voting. I mean, the Republicans are voting almost unanimously to end it, and the Democrats keep voting against ending it. You know, they've never had this. This has happened like 18 times before. The Democrats always voted for an extension, always saying, give us an extension, we'll work it out. They've lost their way. They become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is say, let's vote.
All right, there are a couple other waste of time questions, and then they circled back to this 5 minutes later to kind of complete the same thought I just played for you.
Sounds like it's not going to get solved, the shutdown.
It's going to get solved, yeah. Oh, it's going to get solved.
How?
We'll get it solved. Eventually, they're going to have to vote.
You're saying the Democrats will capitulate?
I think they have to.
All right, now, you had Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, your senator, say the same thing over the weekend. One said it to Maria Bartiromo on Fox News Sunday or whatever it's called. And that was Trump last night talking to Norah O'Donnell on 60 Minutes. As soon as this election's over, and everyone gets back to work and everyone figures out what the results are, they're going to sit down. There's going to be a complete capitulation and the shutdown will be over by the end of the week. Now, isn't that going to be an interesting theory to see if it comes to play, if it comes to pass? Again, you're not going to get credit. There's not going to be the headline saying, oh, my goodness, I guess they were lying this entire time about, the principled stand that they were taking on the shutdown. I guess they were lying about caring about your premiums. They're not going to be held to account. Don't expect that. But expect a bill to get passed before the end of the weekend. Now, that's interesting because we're also setting up the scenario by which if something doesn't happen by the end of the week, then they're going to get those sound bites beaten over their heads. So I like that theory. That kind of makes sense. I mean, politically speaking, that makes sense. Morally speaking, of course not. Ethically speaking, that's another big fat question mark. But from a political standpoint, that might be a good little strategy. Listen, look, Ted Cruz said it best. Let me play this again.
Will the government open this upcoming week? This is getting seriously impacting the U.S. economy. What's your take?
I think it's likely to open Wednesday or Thursday of this week. The Democrats will wait until after Election Day because they think a shutdown is good for energizing the crazies in their party. But I think it'll be either late this week or early next week.
Are you going to have to give on the Obamacare subsidies?
No, the Democrats will collapse entirely.
Okay.
See, that's wild. How does he know that they're going to collapse entirely? Is that his prediction? Are little birdies saying things? Because if you ever go hang out in D.C., I don't know if you have. I've really only gone there a couple times. And the one time I actually hung out in D.C., I was on a satellite radio company, and we went to D.C. to do some speaking engagement. And then we were invited by Tom DeLay to go hang out at some cigar bar where there were a bunch of congressmen. There was, congressmen and senators. There was all these big players in D.C., and it's on Pennsylvania Avenue, the road that connects the White House to the Capitol building. And it was really weird to see all these people from, Fox News and CNN and C-SPAN just kind of jumping out, and they're sitting at tables and they're chatting with each other. But the interesting part that I never got to saw before that you probably haven't got to see is the senators and congressmen talk to each other. And then at other tables, their staffers are talking to each other. And the staffers seem to be where the real work gets done. Those are the people that actually write the bills. Those are the people that actually write the speeches. Those are the people that actually control and go through the details on what the senator does, says, and what you see of it. And those people are all friends. Of course, it's a human endeavor, and there's going to be some scuttlebutt. I hate so-and-so. Did you hear what he said behind your back? So-and-so's dating so-and-so, or so-and-so's cheating on his wife. And there's a little bit of that. But they're not on two separate teams, constantly trying to get the upper hand on each other. They're on the same team, trying to figure out how they can get ahead in the world while keeping their respective voting bases in line. And if you just sit in a cigar bar on Pennsylvania Avenue for 2 hours and just listen to conversation, just go from table to table. Hey, yeah, I'm a talk show host on satellite radio. Oh, cool. What's your name? What do you do? I work for so-and-so. Who do you work for? I work for so-and-so. Oh, aren't y'all supposed to be shooting each other in the face right now with a gun? Oh, no, actually, we went to George Washington together, just down the road, George Washington University. Yeah, and actually, we used to work on the same staff at this nonprofit, and then we just went to different so much of what you see is just theater. But you kind of knew that, didn't you? And look, the story's about Celina, but you could probably insert many school districts into these stories and have it still apply. And the frustrating part about this is my next guest, Brandon Waltons from Texas Scorecard, TexasScorecard.com, is coming on, and they are one of the greatest sources you can have for bad apple teachers in the state of Texas. But when I was bringing you on, Brandon Waltons, and welcome back to the show, I was going to talk about Celina, who just got in trouble again. They had one student at the middle school whose dad's like the head football coach, and he may have surreptitiously recorded some students, and that's just an absolute nightmare fuel for all the parents up there. And then I was going to have you on because there was another teacher that got arrested and charged last week for perhaps, allegedly being drunk in class. And since I scheduled the interview, another Celina teacher has got arrested, or this one's a coach, again for inappropriate conduct with the kiddos there. Brandon Waltons, I mean, how do I convey how big of a deal we have with bad apple teachers in Texas?
I mean, it's so bad. And, I've been on before, obviously, and we've talked about some of these. We report a lot on these bad apple cases of teachers that are engaging in inappropriate sexual behavior or otherwise child endangerment in and out of the classroom. What's unusual is normally we're talking about different school districts. In this case, we've had case after case just in the last couple of weeks in the same school district, Celina ISD, where it all kicked off with these allegations against a coach for allegedly filming his, students nude in the locker room, disgusting stuff. That coach was placed on leave. So too was the principal of that middle school, who was accused allegedly of helping essentially cover it up. Has certainly been accused of that by some of the parents. And then you jump in. You have the story from late last week where, completely separate from all this, you have a teacher that is arrested for allegedly being drunk in the classroom while they're supposed to be teaching kids. This is all stacking up with, I mean, you now have an investigation by the Attorney General's office into the sexual misconduct cases. You have parents that are essentially suing now, suing the school district over this whole scandal. This is just one school district, and it just underscores, if this can happen in one school district, what is happening in the districts across the state? And unfortunately, we report a lot on it, as I mentioned it. And the answer is unfortunately not good, that unfortunately this sort of thing happens all over the place, and parents really, really need to be vigilant.
So that's 5. There's actually 5 people who have been put on leave from Celina. There was another staffer, and she didn't do anything wrong. We don't suspect. It's just you don't want her in the way while they're doing the investigation or something to that effect. I'm kind of interested in a teacher being drunk in class. Now, she got charged with a crime like endangerment of children or endangering students. I didn't think it'd be a crime to be drunk while you teach in social studies or whatever she was in charge of. But you almost have to admire the dedication. How on earth do you get drunk before school starts?
Yeah, you have to start early, I guess, right? And, in this case, I think people looked at it, said, wow, it's child endangerment. Well, I mean, when you step back and think about it, yeah, I mean, these are teachers. These are people that are entrusted to look after minors during the school day, which you can't exactly do when you're intoxicated. And so that's what she's being charged with. And I think it also goes to say, okay, this teacher's been caught for this. How long has this been going on, right? Was this the one time that she came to school or
of course
came
not.
to the classroom intoxicated? Hard to believe.
Right. All right, we're talking with Brandon Walton from Texas Scorecard. TexasScorecard.com is his website, about the just amazing string of bad teachers we have in North Texas. And, Brandon, when we have 15 to 20 unarmed black men that are killed by police every year, we burn down cities every weekend for 6 months. And we have an entire movement called BLM, and we have Antifa that's protesting, and they try and defund the cops, and there's all kinds of attention that are paid to it. But we have hundreds of teachers that are abusing kids just in this one state. And there's no outrage. I don't even know what I'm asking for, Brandon, but yeah. I can't explain how society ignores this problem so well.
Well, I think a lot of people, unfortunately, the issue doesn't hit home until it happens in their backyard. I mean, certainly you see families in Celina ISD being very upset and being very active against the school district here. But it's very easy for somebody who lives in a different part of the state to say, well, that's that school district. It couldn't be happening in mine. And like I said, unfortunately, we've seen that, it doesn't matter, suburban, urban, rural, big, large, somewhere in between. This sort of behavior is not unique to just one part of the state or one type of district. It's happening, unfortunately, all over.
So what do we do on a personal level? Do you just ask your kids every day, hey, do you have any creepy teachers? You have any drunk teachers? Do you have any surreptitious recording teachers? Do your friends have any weird stories? Like, I am a father with 4 kids in the Texas public school system. What would your advice be for someone in my situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, this is where, of course, as parents, we need to be, active and not just, of course, asking our kids what's happening, in the classroom, but also having a relationship with administrators and with teachers to where, in some of these cases, it's because of parents that have sort of sensed something was off and did a little, investigation and uncovered some of these things. I think that's part of it. On a broader level, I think that all of this underscores, and we've talked about this before, but I think all of this underscores exactly why there has been momentum and why we have seen the school choice program, finally pass out of the legislature this year and, is going to affect next school year. Well, I think this is a big reason why I think there's so much momentum and so much desire to have some of that, because I think a lot of parents, given the option, would rather have more choice over where their kids go to school.
And on your website, Brandon Walton's at TexasScorecard.com, it wouldn't stop here. We could talk about the coach at Mansfield's Legacy High School that just got picked up, child pornography and whatnot. We could talk about the band directors at Cedar Hill that are on leave for their investigation into conduct with students. I mean, this is such a huge issue. I really appreciate you guys putting so much effort into this.
Of course. I mean, they're not fun stories to report, but unfortunately, I think there's been a big lack of reporting on it over the last couple of years. And when we started to investigate these stories, we thought, well, maybe there's just a few of these a year. And unfortunately, it's just about every day. Unfortunately, there's some story like this coming out of some part of the state.
All right. Well, great work you're doing over there on a terrible topic. Brandon Waltons from TexasScorecard.com. I appreciate your insights on the James Show, sir.
Of course. Thank you.
Troubling stuff. Am I only interested in this because I have kids in the schools? Is that the reason why I'm all over this? Here's the report real quick, WFAA.
And it has been a turbulent few weeks for Celina ISD. For the second time in a month, they are dealing with the arrest of a teacher at their middle school. The most recent arrest happened Thursday. In a letter to parents, the district says 40-year-old Jania Walder, a sixth grade English language arts and reading teacher, was removed from her classroom due to suspicion she showed up to work intoxicated.
Hey, does she show up to work intoxicated? Because that's how they frame it. How do you get drunk by 7:30 in the morning? She had to have a bottle out, and she was going out there and like homeroom or during the lunch period and taking shots or something. Paul in Garland, welcome to the James Show, Paul.
Yeah, my ex one night went out drinking.
Oh, hey, hang on. For those of you just joining us, Paul is going to reference the previous story of a teacher at a local school that got arrested for being drunk in class, and I was asking the question, how does someone get that drunk that early? Is that where you're going with that, Paul?
Yes, I am. My ex-fiance went out drinking with all her girlfriends, got so drunk, bar closed at 2 a.m. She had a light day working from home the next day, but she drunk so much at 2 a.m. she got home the next morning at 9:45. She clocked in on her work computer at 8. At 9:45, she still had a buzz working from quitting drinking at 2 in the morning.
No way. No, you can't have a buzz for 7 hours like that, can you?
Yes, she did. She was still buzzing from that. Luckily, she had a light day. She had just drank so much the night before, and that woman could have just drank so much the night before if she drank late like that and got to bed at 4 in the morning or whatever, that she got up and got to school still inebriated.
Okay, she would have to continue drinking past the 2 o'clock, because I'm assuming she quit at 2 in the morning, because the effects of being drunk, they wear off. I just Googled it real quick, 4 to 6 hours. So,
she quit drinking when the bar closed at 2 a.m., and she at 9:45 in the morning still had a buzz working.
So you referred to her as your fiance. I imagine you obviously didn't marry her. So what happened?
No, I didn't do that. We just ended up splitting up, but she quit doing that.
Was it the drinking?
Yeah, she quit drinking like that. But yeah, she was just passed out drunk. I had to carry her in the house.
Man, that is so wild, because I never had any close relationships with a severe alcoholic, but this guy I used to work with at a previous radio station, his wife hit every bullet point on the pamphlet. He would have to wake up and say, listen, you can't drink vodka right now for breakfast because you got to pick up the kid from school or preschool or pre-K or whatever we were doing at the time. And man, I was amazed the level of dedication. They treat it like crack. They treat it like heroin. Like, I gotta have it now.
She never did that often.
Oh, okay.
It was once in a blue moon, but she got
well, that almost makes it fun then.
She got so drunk that she literally the next morning when she started work, she still had a buzz.
All right. Well, some people just have too much fun. Some people have said, I only have a limited amount of time on this planet, on this rock that's just spinning through space with the rest of y'all. I'm not going to spend it all sober. Come on, what am I, a nun around here? Trump was asked about it on 60 Minutes last night. In fact, that was the first salvo of questions he got was about the China trade deal, partial China trade deal.
What did you get out of this deal that you wanted?
Well, I got sort of everything that we wanted. We got no rare earth threat. That's gone, completely gone. We have tremendous amounts of dollars pouring in because we have very big tariffs, almost 50%.
All right, now if you scoot up 6.5 minutes, the other good part about the China trade deal, here's another detail that was important. Talking about chip plants.
Within 2 years from now, we'll have 40 or 50% of the chip market. What's happening? The biggest companies are leaving Taiwan. They're coming into the United States because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, they wouldn't be doing it.
In how many years you think we'll be
I think in 2 years, we'll start opening up plants and we'll have a very substantial portion of the chip market.
Well, that sounds like it could be huge news on a macroeconomic level, but how does this affect you on the individual level? Michelle Schultz is my next guest from Schultz Trade Law. Welcome back to the James Show. I know that's a very vague question, but how would you answer that? Does this China deal affect anyone on the individual level?
Yes. And in fact, I think that's where our clients are seeing it the most. I represent large companies, importers, and also small and medium-sized importers. And what I'm seeing is that companies of all sizes are impacted down to the individual. And individual company owners have contacted me saying, my business is no longer sustainable because the tariffs on my goods are too high and my customers won't pay that. So we have numerous clients that are struggling to keep their businesses open and moving due to the tariffs on a very real level.
Who do you see is getting hit the hardest?
Ooh, that's a good question. Importers of commodities, I would say, could be, certainly importers who are importing from China have been getting hit. So the newest development is welcome. However, companies importing anything are getting hit with at least the reciprocal and fentanyl tariffs that started in April. So Canada, Mexico, still China, all of that will be debated on Wednesday in the Supreme Court. But we've got companies importing things like clothes and belts and jewelry and shoes that, they just can't make it under the current environment.
Can I go back and ask about what's happening Wednesday?
Yes. So Wednesday is the big Supreme Court case. We had a case that the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled on several months ago. And the Court of International Trade essentially specializes in what I do. They specialize in tariffs and trade. And they decided that the 1977 IEEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, was not adequate on which the president can rely to justify these tariffs that were started in April. Essentially, the question is going to be on Wednesday for the Supreme Court. Is this an emergency or is this just for leverage?
Man, I could really see that going either way. And even though it's not real favorable to Trump, I don't see how this meets the definition of an emergency. So I'm kind of looking for the Supreme Court to slap it down.
I'm kind of thinking, in my mind, the law is clear and an emergency would have to somehow be a more imminent harm rather than just overall leverage in a multi-year trade war. So I think they may slap it down, in which case importers would be due refunds and we could possibly process refund requests. On the other hand, the steel tariffs, aluminum, many other tariffs will stay because they're not under the IEEPA. They're under different laws.
Now I'm really confused. We're talking with Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. So no, that's okay. I just needed to. I don't do trade law for a living. So even if the Supreme Court on Wednesday says Trump can't unilaterally make these vast changes to tariffs at his whim, But aluminum and some other commodities are exempted?
Yes.
So he still will be able to control that. So he still will have some leverage?
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of call it Plan B because so if it's not an emergency and the Supreme Court says, okay, all this is not an emergency, Trump has already initiated investigations for unfair trade practices as well as national security under other sections of law, which they call Section 301 and Section 232. And they're completely separate from what the Supreme Court will evaluate. They're also a little easier. It's easier because the U.S. government itself determines if the trade practices are unfair or if there might be injury to national security. So those are kind of a Plan B if he's not able to continue just imposing tariffs country by country for leverage.
Can't China go to the World Trade Organization and say, hey, they're not playing fair?
I don't think, well, they could, but I don't think that they would fare well because China has a reputation for not following the WTO's rules. So I'm not sure they would come out on top.
Good. Well, that's what they get for bootlegging all our movies for the last however many decades.
That's exactly right.
All right.
Don't bootleg our movies.
Well, you also said something that was new to me. If this court case slaps down the tariffs, there could be refunds involved?
Yes. And that would be a process where we or our clients, importers, would have to go to customs and request refunds on anything that they paid that was ruled illegal. And that can be a tedious process. So it's great for importers, but it's also something that I wouldn't expect to happen quickly based on my experience with refunds.
There's like a form for that? Like, I don't know, form 6, 7 or something. Kids, I got it in there. Did you hear that? Just in case my kids are listening. All right. Thank you very much, Michelle Schultz from Schultz Trade Law. Keep an eye on this China deal because this is only a partial deal, right? We're still expecting more to come, question mark?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only a partial deal. And keep in mind, China's looking long term. They were hoping to integrate military and commercial products and have a world-class military by 2049. So I don't know between now and 2049 what will happen. I think we're going to be on our toes.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of time before then. Thank you very much, Michelle Schultz, Schultz Trade Law. Appreciate you on the James Show.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Michelle. Coming up next, why I think ending the filibuster is a terrible idea. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.